Hey everyone, we're super excited today because Kelly and I did an 8-week focus group, and it was all about taking biometrics from either a watch or a ring or something that, the members were using to track their data. And then they were using ChatGPT to have a data analysis and see where they stood based on their use of the touch. And so Kelly did so much back end work, and I can't wait for you to see all of the juicy details on what she has to prepare for you.
All right, this is the AI biosensor focus group findings, and I'm so excited to share all this stuff with you guys. Oh, I can't wait. Okay, so frequency is everything. And what did we learn from the focus group? Well, we learned things like frequency is everything. And, all this is based on Dr. Alfredo's decades of research and the members' lived testimonies. So this focus group wasn't a typical clinical trial. It was what I like to consider a sacred field experiment, right? Like all this is in the quantum field. And so it's sort of a living testimony of frequency and of coherence and of intention, and how when you move all of those things together, you have measurable change that can take place. So Tracy, what would you like to ask me about what the purpose was beyond this? Like, do you have any questions for me?
We wanted to demonstrate how different changes that the members did, which would be like charging their water or touch placement, how it affected their biometrics, meaning their sleep or their blood pressure or their any of their objective data along with their subjective data, because you want the full picture.
Right. And, what we did was in the beginning, we had members write to their future selves at the baseline and leave themselves notes about, what their hopes were for the focus group. And then later on in the focus group, we asked them, like, did you meet that, goal or hope that you had for yourself? And how did that turn out for you? And it was interesting to me because so many people actually did meet or exceed their personal goals through this process. Um, and it wasn't a passive kind of thing, right? Everybody was really, really fully engaged in the process of beginning to the end, right? We spent a few weeks in the beginning teaching everybody how to use AI and how to upload their data and how to work with the AI and how to manipulate that stuff before we started adding in any other measures. So it was really interesting to see how once we started adding things in, how all of a sudden their results just skyrocketed from there, essentially.
And you know what I found so funny is while at the beginning they were a little bit pensive about using the AI, how they leaned into it and they did so much more than just their health metrics. Some of
Yeah,
them
they
had like deep soul conversations, and others were able to find cheaper airline tickets or a cheaper car. Or wasn't that kind of fun too, Kelly?
loved hearing all those stories. And I was like, wow, that's a great idea. I never thought of that. Like I learned so much from the participants and I thought I was using it to its full potential. And I really wasn't. And they taught me stuff. And I was like, they were coming to me for answers. And I'm like, I'm learning more from you than I'm teaching you. So it was such a
Agreed.
so to get to sort of the nitty gritty stuff, we had 53 members complete the pre-survey. Some people right after that kind of realized that, hey, this is a little advanced. It's not really my bag of donuts. I'm gonna take the mulligan and exit now. And then mid-survey, we had 35. And at the last survey, we only lost 3 people. And that could have just been because I pulled the data before they had actually gone in and done it. So they may have actually done that study, but I didn't include them in the final results because I needed to get moving on everything. So what's interesting about that is that's a really good attrition rate. So an attrition rate is how many people you lose throughout the course of a study. And for an 8-week study, we had that initial group that left. So from week 4 to week 8 to only have 3 people not complete the last study is fantastic. I'm really excited about that. That shows a lot of statistical significance in the end. So this is really it kind of covered up the numbers when we transferred it from Canva to PowerPoint. But essentially what this is showing is that what I just said, from the beginning, we had a group of 53, mid 35, post 32. It's pretty even all the way around on the pie chart. So that's really something to have people stick with it long term, especially for something like this. So let's get into what we actually saw at the baseline of the study. So our members were spread across the spectrum. Some people were thriving, others were deeply struggling with their health. So essentially, everybody I'm only listing 5 of the, all of the metrics that people did because these were the most common things that people were tracking. There were other things like heart rate variability and blood pressure and things like that. But that doesn't apply to everybody across the spectrum. So I wanted to have things that I reported that really do affect everybody. Everybody's got energy issues, mood issues, pain, sleep. But everybody was initially reporting somewhere around 6s and 7s in these areas. Some obviously were much lower. Some reported 1s and 2s, and others were higher at 9s and 10s, right? It just sort of depended, but these are the mean averages. Some of the things that people wrote in the beginning were that they wanted to really stick with this throughout to the end, right? To see what would happen. And they wanted to be co-creators of their futures and of their health. Some people were using the QT wave approximately 24 hours a day, minus showering and, charging it. And others were only, slightly engaged. And some people were only using touch once a day, if at all. Others were using it multiple times throughout the day, or even 24/7 if you want to count that they just kept pushing play. So the diversity in our group was really all over the place, right? But the interesting thing was that we had similar responses, regardless of how little or how much you were using our devices in the beginning, as we added modalities to the process. So that really shows that, while we have bio-individuality, and everybody's coming from a different, starting point, everybody improved overall. And I think that that's really great statistically. So what happened when we actually began to introduce these different modalities into the equation? So by the midpoint, we saw the first real movement. Energy and mood increased, pain dipped, sleep dipped a little bit, but that could have been, energetic shifts as we added in different placements and water and electrolytes and stuff like that. But essentially, we had good improvements. Energy went up about 0.4 of a point, mood about 2.2 of a point. Pain went down very slightly. Hate when phone calls come in. Pain dipped, a little bit. In this scale, that means that their pain actually went up slightly. But again, that could have just been changes in their lives. It could have just been a fluke. And sleep changed a little bit too. But what I liked is that members started asking the AI, like you mentioned earlier, deeper questions, right? Like they started asking like, okay, well, why did my pain suddenly get a little bit worse? Why is my sleep suddenly taking a little bit of a hit? What can I be doing that will increase my energy, that will help alleviate my pain? They started interacting with it more than they had been, which I thought was a really cool side effect. And while they weren't yet at their peak results, they did start to notice shifts. They were slight, but they were noticeable. And that's something statistically significant too, because when you compare something like this to something like physical therapy, acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine, homeopathy, a detox protocol, you'll have an immediate improvement with any of those things, right? Because something is always better than nothing. But eventually you sort of peak and then just sort of either stabilize or start to dip back down. What our results, and you'll see this later on, is that other than sleep and pain that dipped a little bit in the middle, week over week, people were steadily improving, even towards the end. And I think that that's a great finding. So what happened at the end? Well, I just kind of gave you a little bit of a sneak peek, but there was improvement in all study metrics.
Wow, look at that. That is incredible.
You don't see things like this that just are placebo effect. Okay, there's something that was going on, whether it was the placement, the increase in hydration and charging of the water, or their engagement, or whatever. Something, it could have been a combination of all of those things. Something caused a profound improvement in their physical biomarkers. So again, statistically, that's really cool. And this is just a visual representation of what I was talking about. So you can see perfectly in energy, they started out around like a 6.9, then they were like 7 point something, and then they were like just under 8. And other than pain and sleep, which have that tiny little dip in the middle, again, they rebounded. Now, obviously, if somebody has something like high blood pressure or atrial fibrillation or other things like that, they may have seen slightly different results for those specific problems. But when you're talking about these main categories specifically, everybody showed improvement, which again, I think is pretty awesome. So what were some of these additions? So let's talk about the water charging and the hydration. So I like to say that water isn't just hydration. Water to me is just like medicine, or I should say just like food. It's another form of medicine, right? And we've talked about this a lot in a lot of different calls, Tracy, about how the body is electric. And without the water, you cannot transmit electrical impulses. You can't exchange toxins in your cells and exchange them for nutrients. You can't get the acidity out of your system, right? You need that water to be able to live a healthy lifestyle, regardless of whatever else you're doing, right? So if you're just like if you're taking in garbage food, you're gonna have weight gain and inflammation and all these problems. If you're not getting enough water in, you're gonna have a lot of problems too. So that alone could have been a factor that helped people get more improvement just by increasing the hydration and their electrolytes and fluids and stuff, right?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to mention. We also discussed electrolytes and the difference between commercial brands as well as a homemade version. And they did notice an improvement once they added the electrolytes as well, because we're
Yeah.
electrical beings.
Mm-hmm. And some of the things that they said, I mean, they're here on the screen, but that they felt lighter and clearer, more alive. Um, and some of our members tested out reverse osmosis water, pH water, um, played around with like their mineral content and stuff. But they said that when they charged their water, regardless of whatever else that they were doing, that they felt a significant boost, increase, whatever you want to call it. They felt better when they charged their water and then drank it, regardless of what type of water it was. Which is really because it's really interesting because if you think about some of the research studies that have been done on easy water, structured water, whatever you want to call it, right? You could easily tie this to that, right? Or even Masaru Emoto's work on the effects of frequency on water. It's so powerful. And I mean, yeah, you could go back and say, well, it's all anecdotal, but everything is anecdotal until science, such as it is, verifies it, right? But I think we're getting to a point in society and humanity that we're like, science, well, look what happened with COVID, right? So, do we all really trust science, right? Like, who pays for the science that gets approved, right? That's kind of where I'm going with this. So, I prefer to use my own judgment and my own findings, and I'll take our members' word over it that they felt better when they charged their water and increased their hydration and their electrolytes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this is just a visual representation. So what this is showing is that those who mentioned that they either increased their fluids and or electrolytes and or also charged to their water showed about 59% and 62.5% in these two groups improvement in their sleep and their digestion. 60%, that's fucking huge.
Hmm.
Like that's fantastic. I have nothing else to say, but that's significant. So in addition to increasing their water intake and charging their water, we also introduced various locations for the placement of their devices while they were using touch. So let's see what happened with that. So where you place the touch matters, and that's what our focus group has proven essentially. The heart, back, head, neck placements consistently showed higher energy, mood, and sleep averages. The heart center, people were reporting sensations of almost euphoric type of feelings, right? Like they really felt that heart expansion, feeling that they felt immense love and joy and peace and gratitude. Like gratitude was a huge thing that people reported. With the crown, they said that they felt like they felt light pouring into them. For their belly button, they felt really grounded and they felt like their digestion was just on point. And they had quotes like, "The body now knows the language of frequency." I think
Mm.
that's so cool, right? Like you would think that would be like a quote from like a website, of ours or something, but that actually came from a member. Um, and I think that placement mapping could become like a part of our personalized protocols, right? Like some people didn't like placement on the heart. They felt that it just like over energized them and that, it was too strong. And some people didn't like placement on the head and other people didn't like it on the belly button. Everybody is bio-individual. You and I talk about that all the time, and it really is true. But when you find that place on your body that just clicks for you, like it seems to open up a world of opportunities for you. I think it's worth trying all these different placements that Ruby, talks about in Telegram and has blog articles about, because, it may not be for you and that's okay, but you tried it and you saw how it did for you. If it really like clicks with you, it might really be significant. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about was some of our members were using bone conduction speakers. I
Headphones,
thought they were
speakers,
just
yeah.
ones that went over your ears and that they would only work like in your ear area, but there are actual speakers that you can buy that play it in the regular air, and your body will feel it. And they were taking those speakers and they were placing those onto the same areas that we were having them test, the frequencies, and they rotated, and one time they would use like their cell phone and they would put it there. Other times they would use the bone conduction. And I thought their findings were really interesting. And, I didn't include that as part of this report, but, those who were doing that really said that the bone conduction, when placed on those parts of the body, really amplified those frequencies going into that area, and they really felt it. So that's cool. Okay, so what we found also through this process is that consistency mattered. The more consistent people were with tracking their outcomes, the better outcomes that they had. And the repetition, right? So increased touch usage throughout the day or repeating programs. So say you only did it in the morning, but you did say 4 back to back. That repetition of the frequency program or multiple programs throughout the day increased people's benefit over time. And then, of course, their commitment to the whole process and to the whole program. Our members, I think we have the best members in the whole world. And those who participated in this focus group were really dedicated. And hands off, congratulations to you all, because I found myself having difficulty maintaining that consistency. I was traveling and I had this going on and that going on, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to do my log, or forgot to do my touch today, and they were really on point with it. They stuck with it, and they followed it straight through. So hats off to you all. And those who committed to a daily or multiple sessions of touch spoke of feeling more stable and feeling more centered. And those who skipped touch reported nothing changed, which, again, if you're not doing the work, how could you expect a change to occur?
Exactly.
So it's so in line with, with what the results showed. If you weren't doing it, you weren't going to see a result, or a positive result, I should say, if any. So it sort of shows that the proof of a dose response effect. Frequency requires repetition, and devotion is the key variable there. So I won't beat that to death. All of this was great, right? But when members integrated suggestions from their AI outcomes, like, some amazing things happened for them. So AI suggestions helped them to adjust their supplements and maybe the timing of their medications, what to do with their hydration, what kind of habits to make changes to. Those who integrated both the aspect of the technology and, I should say, of QHS technology with AI suggestions, all reported stronger results. And so that means that when you combine QHS technology with AI guidance, that you can hack your health for the better. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's why we did WOW and, all those calls. That's why I did all the hug calls, because the frequency works, but when you support it with healthier lifestyles, then it amplifies your results.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I like, and I'm going to let you talk about this a little bit more, because this was kind of your portion of what we did, where members' testimonials, their voices, what they had to say and what they thought.
Well, one of the things I loved is, like you said earlier, their commitment to the project, how they leaned into the support from the AI, and how they were very honest and open, because they knew that we were holding space for them and it was non-judgmental. So if they were like saying something negative, like, oh my gosh, I can't handle the touch on my heart, then it was like a safe place to do so. And that's one thing that's really cool about holding these focus groups, is they're small, intimate discussions. I loved how they really were able to get benefit from charging their water if they were too sensitive to the touch and could only use it a little bit. But getting the frequency through the water via directly through the touch, I thought that was brilliant, that
Mhm.
they were able to do that, because, if they're too sensitive, at least that's a solution. I'm sure that other members that feel that same sensitivity would like to know that that's an option for them.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. You know what I thought was cool too? I think it was on the final survey that I sent out. I asked them, I always like to put in these like fun little questions, just to sort of get their minds going and see what they might come up with. I asked them to each give us a theme song for their life currently. And some of them came back with Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield, which we had played throughout the thing. And somebody else wrote Staying Alive.
Ooh.
And I thought that was really cool, because, you'd think that somebody would pick like almost like a ballad, right? Or something really uplifting. And I wouldn't have thought of like a disco song, right? But yeah, and I thought it's not just about staying alive, it's about thriving. And that song kind of talks about thriving, right? Because it's so upbeat and you can dance to it. And you think about like people who dance to that song, right? They're having a great time. They're really living their life. It's not just living a life, it's enjoying that life. And I thought that was a cool theme song somebody came up with. So I
Whenever
just,
I think of that song, I think of John Travolta and his strut. It's time
yeah,
to strut. And they would have that song and he would do his strut down the street.
yeah, yeah. And interestingly, as a nurse, one of the things that they teach you when you're like learning CPR is to sing that song to yourself because the tempo is about the same rhythm that you need to maintain. So whenever I would do CPR, I would be like, stand up, stand up, stand up, and I would sing it to myself, like, I'm keeping you alive, I'm keeping you alive, I'm keeping you alive. But then they brought that song up, and I'm like, yeah, it's not just about keeping somebody alive, it's letting them actually live that life to the fullest. And that I thought that was cool.
Yeah, like I always say, it's not the years of your life, it's the life of your years.
I totally agree. Totally agree. So, what did we gain in total from this focus group? I think it's pretty cool. So, people went from total skepticism to measurable gains, and they went from drinking water that was essentially dead to drinking water that's alive and with frequencies, and now we're going to be adding in conscious crystal technology, which is only going to further that. I don't have it on right now just because kept getting it caught on my shirt and my hair, but I normally have my bracelet on all the time. And I can see that I've had measurable outcomes just from this, which only has the one crystal, is not made of real gold, and does not have the corresponding pendant. So I can only imagine that once that's all added in, that it's going to be even greater,
Hmm.
and the integration of the touch with QT wave placement, like some of the people who had a QT wave were using those as well, and using AI. Those people had like the strongest coherence fields. It was like a continuous adaptive thing for them. And when you add that in, when you consider Dr. Alfredo's like 40 plus years of experience in this, if even more than that, right? Which was once a fringe thing and it's becoming now more mainstream, right? And people are embodying the use of our devices and our technology. Essentially, our members are flame bearers of this frequency medicine thing, right? And they're proving the coherence of frequency at a large scale. I think that's pretty cool. Um, every dot on these graphs, every line on these charts, every numerical value that our focus members put on their surveys and in their, daily metric scoring, it's another life touched, it's another life transformed. And that's essentially what we're here to do, right? Is to change lives and to transform health and to really bring about heaven on earth and all of the things that encompasses. And I'm so excited for the new QA app when it launches because essentially it'll be doing a lot of what we did, but we, you and I, and those who participated in the focus group will have really good feedback for Cynthia and Dr. A as to what they think should be included. It's going to be a bare minimum program when it first comes out, and we'll have the ability to add to it and really guide how that's released, right? And so things that we've learned from this focus group will really help to form that and help members moving forward. Um, and the bracelet, it learns your frequency as you wear it, and it self-powered and it adapts to you. And I think that that's cool. And I'm excited for the future.
Me too. And it will be really fun if we can teach the members at large how to take their data from the app and plug it into AI so they can also get, okay, what can I do better? And that's going to be our topic for WOW next week. It's going to be choose, everybody choose what it is, one new healthy habit that you need to either add in or something you need to crowd out.
Mhm.
So that'll be a fun discussion next week.
Yeah, I agree. I can't wait. I mean, we're pretty much at the end. So all I have to say is thank you. And frequency is everything. Consistency is key. And together, we're proving it.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. You did a great job.
Thank you.